Good morning, everyone. We continue with the piece from Rav Tzadok on the ending of the story of Pesel Micha. So we're going to finish that up today, and then we're going to move on to the next story. The handout that I gave you, we're on the second page, and we're on the fourth line on the second page from the piece from Rav Tzadok in Takonas HaShovim. And what Rav Tzadok has told us is the real root of the misguided ideology of Micha. So Micha felt that there was a concept of introducing corporeality into Hashem. That's called Hagshama, making Gashmias out of the Ruchnias, and giving a sense of physical reality to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what the Pesel was all about. And that's why you find the uniqueness by Pesel Micha, where Micha is referring to Hashem's name of the four letters Yud Hey and Vav Hey, and he's clearly understanding that it is Hashem, the Hashem that he is interested in, but he is using physical means of expressing the reality of Hashem. And that's what Chazal said, that he kicked in the Anochi, but not in the Lo Yeh Alecha Elokim Acharim. He did not kick in the area of idol worship per se, but the real problem was that he didn't understand the uniqueness of Hashem's reality that transcends all physicality. And now he tells you that this is not such an unusual thing. And that's what we're going to continue now on the fourth line in the second page. He says, V'chol ma'aminei ha'hagshama. Okay, so it is with all who believe in incorporating physicality into Hashem. Afal pi sheharavid. Even though the Ravid in Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva discusses people who are considered heretics and don't have a portion of the world to come, and those are those who don't believe that God is beyond physicality. To which the Ravid contends against that and says, he says, there are many great people who made this mistake and thought that Hashem was physical. And that's what he says in the next line. The Ravid Koram, he calls such people who make these mistakes Gedolim V'tovim. They can be great and good people. Hainu mean to say, if you show you Shogim, they made mistakes. He still says they made mistakes. In other words, the Ravid says a lot of people walking around who think that God has a physical aspect to him, because the concept is so difficult to understand, and they're simple-minded people who have simple-minded ways of looking at things, and they only understand the physical world, so they understand Hashem as a physical being. I mean, a different, of course, than us, but they still incorporate some physicality into him. So the Ravid says, such people should not be denied access to the world to come. And now we put in the bold, even though a person who unintentionally makes a mistake, he needs kapara, he needs atonement, he has to fix it up. But mikomokom lo nikra rasha klal, he should not be called a rasha at all. Even though he never recognized his unintentional mistake and never did tshuva from this. In other words, there's a big argument that Ravid has with the Rambam. And the Ravid's position is, let's say a person, makes a mistake in Yiddishkeit his whole life. Certain area of halacha he didn't know. He didn't understand a certain concept, whatever. He missed school that day when he was a kid and no one ever corrected him. And he goes through his whole life unintentionally doing this sin. Does that mean he's a rasha? It's not a rasha. He made a mistake. He didn't do tshuva. Many people in this world, they will leave this world not having done tshuva and all their averos. They're not a rasha. Okay, they have to go to Gehenim to get things fixed up a little bit. Maybe a lot. But they're not a rasha. Rasha means someone who's not committed to Yiddishkeit, who would prefer things other than Hashem as a general way of life. Right? That's a rasha. But you're a good Jew, but a misguided Jew. Okay, so now it depends. Now obviously it depends on a lot of things. If you're misguided in all 613 things, then you're going to be a rasha. I didn't know you couldn't be immoral. I didn't know because everyone that I live with says you can be immoral, and I didn't know you can't steal because everybody else, it gets to the point where you're going against basic, proper behavior. You're going to be a Russian. But let's say you're making a major mistake. So how do we deal with people who are making major mistakes? So it's interesting that on the other hand, we have the famous vort from Reb Chaim Brisker on the Rambam, his approach is, the Rambam is saying a guy who believes that Hashem has a physical aspect is a Napikuris, he's a heretic. So then they asked of Reb Chaim Brisker, they said, yeah, but he doesn't know. What if a guy doesn't know? Guy isn't aware. So he says in Yiddish, we'll explain in English, Nebuch Napikuris is Ochad Napikuris. A person who unfortunately is a heretic is still a heretic. In other words, if you're missing the basic, you're missing the basic, and you're out of the game. It's too bad. Which, may be true in many areas, but not everybody agrees with that position. Not everybody agrees with that position. For example, there's a beautiful story said about there's different versions of the story, but about an ignorant Jew who lived in Tzvas, who was a Marano, who finally was able to come out of the closet. And he was a fairly ignorant Jew. So he hears one day the rabbi's giving class between Mincha and Marv, and there's some people who understand the class, and others really don't, but they just pick up what they pick up. And the rabbi was discussing how in the days of the temple, every Friday, the Kohen would prepare 12 loaves of bread to put into the shulchan on the table in the Beis HaMikdash. So, and then he described how there's no Beis HaMikdash anymore, we can't do that anymore. So, the ignorant Jew goes home and tells his wife what he learned in class that day. That there used to be a beautiful gift to God, and it doesn't happen anymore. So they decide, maybe they should give a gift to God. So what did they decide? They decided that the wife would bake challah special for Hashem, and I don't remember which day of the week it would be. It would be I think it was like very early Friday morning. The husband would come to shul very early and take challahs that the wife made and put them into the Aron HaKodesh as a gift to Hashem. So fine. So that's the plan. That's what they did. And so early Friday morning, he goes in, quietly puts into Aron HaKodesh, goes back to seat, goes home, whatever. So then they want to know, well, how do they know if Hashem accepted their gift or not? He said, well, we'll go after Shabbos and take a look at Aron HaKodesh and see what's the story. So after Shabbos, he, again when nobody's around, he opens up the Aron HaKodesh and they're gone. He tells the wife, good news, Hashem has accepted our challah offering. And so it is, week after week. Every Friday morning, the husband brings the challahs in. Every month of Shabbos, he sees the challahs are gone. And he's so happy, the wife's so happy, they were able to mamish give a gift to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Anyway, this goes on, I don't know how long, it goes on for a while. Well, one day the guy wasn't so careful, and the shamash came in early, and the shamash notices that the guy is putting the challahs in. So, there's different versions of the story here, but anyway, the shamash tells it to the rabbi, and the rabbi confronts the guy and says, are you the guy who's been putting the challahs in there? He says, yeah. And it's so amazing that Hashem is taking it every Shabbos. This guy says, you foolish man. The Gabai's been taking it out. He's been wondering who's been putting challahs in front of the ark every Friday. So he took it out before Shabbos and he'd give it to the poor people, whatever, or he'd eat it himself. This is not what you're supposed to do. So the guy felt so bad. He felt so embarrassed. They did such a foolish thing. Right? Anyway, one day the Arizal calls over to the rabbi and he says, you better go home and prepare to tell your family, arrange your affairs, because you're not going to be alive in another day. And he says, why? It's because, from the destruction of the temple until today, Hashem didn't get any satisfaction over the loss of the temple until this simple couple wanted to give these gifts to Hashem. And this gift gave Hashem so much joy, and now you stopped it. And because of that, you'll be punished. And so it was. So again, this is a Hasidic story. So, but the point being, what's the upshot of the story? The upshot of the story is, obviously they were shogegim. Obviously they were unintentionally. Obviously, there's something that if a person understood any better, you understand what kind of disgrace it is to the ark. Because in halacha, the only thing that goes in the ark is a sefer Torah and nothing else. It's not the kind of thing that belongs in the ark. And from a halachic point of view, you don't do such a thing. You don't put your lunch in the ark, and you don't put any chalas. There's no such thing as putting chalas in an ark. But from their ignorant point of view, they thought this was the most beautiful thing that they could do, and it was great self-sacrifice on their part. So you see from that story that even if a person is a shogeg, and maybe even wrong, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the person isn't coming from a good place. So that's the whole idea over here. So if you believe that God is physical, but you really love God and you want to be close to Hashem, and you feel this is your way, of course it's wrong, right? But would we call the guy a Rasha? That's the point. So Reb Tzadok is saying he's not called a Rasha klal. He's not called a Rasha at all. He's misguided. He's mistaken. He'll have to be. There's a big difference. Russia really is a bad name. If you're called Russia, that means you're Ra. You're bad, like pretty much through and through. The guy's not bad through and through. He's made a bad mistake. Okay, he'll have to get fixed up in that. So that's what he's saying. Let's continue. That's what he's saying right after the bold lines, the bolded words. Even though he never recognized his mistake his whole life and never did tshuva on it. So now let's bring it back to Micha. Certainly Micha was mistaken to think that there's a physical aspect of Hashem. So why is he called one who kicked against the first commandment? Because of Yishahayil Lilmod, he should have learned better. V'lolamad, and didn't learn. V'yakarov l'mezid, and was very close, borderline mazid, intentionally wrong, borderline. Why? First of all, he transgressed 2 of the 10 commandments of lo signov. You shouldn't steal. Remember, he stole the 1,100 gold coins from his mother. V'lo sisa, that you shouldn't hear Hashem's name in vain. Sheshama Allah v'kibalas. You heard the curse that the mother made, and he accepted upon himself. Lahoda didn't confess. I mean, in other words, he had the mother go through with the curse using God's name, and he could have said in the beginning that it was me. He also transgressed val kibbutz. He transgressed honoring his mother. Ubetilsa avichazaka. With 3 things, that's a very bad trend. Shabolatame Leos Pochrin, that he's coming to make himself impure, and as well, obviously, he also, he went through the Sea of Reeds. He heard the 10 Commandments at Sinai, and we understand how Hashem revealed Himself at Sinai. So it wasn't like he was a totally ignorant guy who never experienced anything that would show that Hashem is amazing. So there were some problems with him. And therefore, it's like borderline mazid, and therefore, that's what's held against him. But on the other hand, he was not a person who wanted to go against Hashem. He wasn't a person who was into idols and putting his trust in the idols. He put his trust in Hashem, but in a way that compromised what the understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. And then that is a sinful activity. But it was a shogeg karov l'mezid, an unintentional, close to intentional. And now he explains a little bit more. V'hu haya mizara de Yosef, and he came from the ancestry of Yosef. Remember, it's Ephraim. Ephraim is from Yosef. When he's galgalo pislo lebnei Dan, and his pesel, evolved to go to the family of Dan. Shehem hatchilas gilui zar derach. That Dan is the beginning of the revelation of the descendants of Rachel. In other words, there is a connection also between Dan and Yosef. You're going to wonder, like, what's Dan and Yosef? What kind of shidduch is that? We understand Yehuda and Dan, where Yehuda is the greatest tribe, Dan is the lowest tribe, and in order to bring Mashiach, you have to incorporate the greatest and the lowest. But you also see in this story, there's a connection between an ancestor of Yosef and an ancestor of Dan, because the tribe of Dan ultimately took the pesel and used it for their own use. So why do you have that connection? So he says, because really, Dan really is the beginning of the revelation of the descendants of Rachel. Because if you recall the story, Rachel couldn't have any children. She tells Yaakov to marry Bilhah, her maid servant, and now the first son that she had was called Dan, meaning to say that Hashem judged me. And hopefully, and if you look in the story there, you'll see very interesting in the story with the matriarchs trying to have children, that every reference to Rachel, there's always the name Elohim, the attribute of justice. Hashem dealt with her with a strong, strong attribute of justice, which was the way Yaakov wanted to live his life. Yaakov, when he had the dream of the ladder, and he finished with the dream, and he took the rocks and put them together, he said, if Hashem will protect me and give me and take care of me, then Hashem will be my Elohim. Which means to say, Hashem, I'll be able to live with you, living with strict justice. He was a rare individual, was willing to live with strict justice. So now, which one of his wives would be able to complement him in that area? The main wife, which is Rachel. So Rachel would have to live with strict justice. Well, Leah didn't have to live with strict justice.
So that's why she died young.
That's why you see, Rachel had a tough life. Yeah. She died young. Every little iniquity she did was under a microscope. While Leah, so to speak, got away with a lot more. Leah did some indiscretions, and she got away with a lot. And she got a lot of children. So you see that Rachel, being the complete Ezer Kenegdo of Yaakov, was the true soulmate of Yaakov. If Yaakov says you live with strict justice, Rachel did also. And therefore now the first child that issued forth from the power of Rachel, again, the whole idea that Dan came into the world, because Rachel said, you know what? Justice dictates I have to really show a lot of kindness to another woman in order for me to deserve to have a child. So now Dan is the result of that. So without Rachel, Dan wouldn't have been in the world. So you can see this connection between Dan and Yosef. So that's what he's saying. It says, Cholos Gilu Zara de Rachel. Bilhah Shivchasa, through Bilhah, her maidservant. She wanted to build up through her. While God was still operating with the attribute of justice on Rachel, that she could not have any children. So he came into the world while the attribute of justice was working very strongly against her. Therefore she said, Hashem has judged me, and he gave me this child. So you can understand, and that's what Rabbi Tzadok said way at the beginning of the piece. He said that he is the man of justice. Dan is the man of justice. His whole coming into the world came through justice. And therefore he looks at everything through justice, and therefore people who have a strong, extreme midas hadin are people who get angry, people and that's the borderline to idolatry, as we said yesterday. And therefore now he explains another interesting thing. He says, Dan, as we said in the story, did not have a portion of land. They weren't able to conquer a piece of land in the beginning of the Shoftim. They weren't able to do that until the story of Pesel Micha. As we see, they were still looking for a portion, as we learned in the story, in chapter 18. They weren't able to have a portion yet. Why? That being able to live in Eretz Yisrael, having a portion of land in Eretz Yisrael, that is a inheritance from the patriarchs. And what is that based on? Moiral Sherish Kedushas Yisrael Mitol Dasam, that teaches us about the root of the sanctity of the Jewish people from their birth. Hashem Yisbarach Nikra Elokei Haaretz. Hashem is called the God of the land. V'chein Torah ikar v'Yisrael, and the Torah is mainly to be practiced in Eretz Yisrael, as the Ramban says in the Sefer Dvarim. The Ramban says that all the mitzvahs we do outside of Eretz Yisrael are preparation for doing them in Eretz Yisrael. In other words, Eretz Yisrael, you have to be very worthy to live in Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't just go to anybody. He says, V'zeu Kedushas Haaretz, and this is the sanctity of the land, Shehi Kiyul Kol Goyim, that spits out the non-Jews when they don't keep the Torah in the land. V'lo Kiblo El B'nai Yisrael, it only accepted the Jews. Why? She'esh Mer Sherish Kedushas Avosim, they have the root of the holiness of their patriarchs. Who merited to get the promise that Hashem would give them the land. Okay, so now, in other words, what he's saying is you have to be on a certain level to deserve to live in Eretz Yisrael. And the only people who ever can come to that level are the children of the patriarchs. We're the only ones who have that innate ability to reach that level. But you still have to do things to deserve that. It doesn't come automatically because you're a Jew. And now he says in the bold lines, so why wasn't all the land conquered for hundreds of years until King David sat on the throne? What took so long? Well, you have to understand, what is the attribute of David? Which one of the spheros is David? Which is? What's it called? Malchut. Malchus, royalty. So Adimei David Hainu Shlo Nisbara Kedushas Yisrael Adayin Legamri Ad Dor David HaMelech Allah Shalom Shu Shleimus Yisrael, that the clarification of the holiness of the Jewish people, the purification, did not reach its full extent until David was sitting on the throne, because he represents the completeness of the Jewish people because of his attribute of Malchus. And we've said many times, what is Malchus? Malchus is taking all the potential attributes and making them happen. Right? We explained Malchus means to say when a person wells up inside himself, oi, I just heard how necessary this family needs chesed. Oh, count me in, I want to help. And you're committed to help. That is activating chesed. Now how come so many times people volunteer to help and when push comes to shove, they don't end up helping? Is it there was a lack of chesed in that person? No, that wasn't the problem. There was a lack of malchus. Malchus means getting the job done. That's another quality. Getting the job done. There's no shortage of a person wanting to do it, but the person it can't finish the job. And that's what malchus is. Royalty means whatever I committed to do, I finish. That's what Malchus is. So the Jews wanted the land, but they had to have a certain spiritual depth. And they wanted the spiritual depth, but they didn't make it happen. That's what you need a king for. The king says, I'm forcing you. What is really a king doing? The king says, look at all this great potential you have. You guys are a bunch of lazy good-for-nothings. You want to do kindness. You want to do this. You want to do this. You have all these great ideas. I'm the king, and you don't do it, you're going to be thrown in jail. I'm going to make you do it. And really, that's what we need, a good kick to make it happen. So the king's job is to kick in a way to make sure everybody understands what they're supposed to and that they get it done. And that's what David HaMelech was all about. That's what Malchus is all about. So only when they had completed the ability to make it happen, so fine. That's when everything was conquered. But going back to Dun, everybody seemed to have some kind of piece of land, even though maybe not totally, but Dun had nothing. She says, so why did Dun not have anything in Eretz Yisrael? Because because that root of the ability to integrate Eretz Yisrael into their lives did not reach the right level. Because a lot of times virtues that people have, on the other hand, schleps the faults if you don't manifest the virtue. So their faults were more revealed because they couldn't find a portion until now. Since they had a lack of the root of Yiddishkeit, they didn't bring it out. Therefore, they were delayed so much in being able to get the land. In other words, Dun was sorely lacking in the ability to bring out that Jewish quality of all these feelings for Hashem because of their anger. They're such an angry tribe, a tribe that always was focused on justice and this and that. That was their root. Now there's a positive way of using it, and unfortunately there was a negative way of using it, which turns into chaos and anger and expecting the whole world should be yours. So by the fact they didn't have any land, that shows Hashem said they weren't ready to live in the land. So now you see, so who's going to help Dun? Who's going to help Dun? So Yosef is the one, because that is the one that's connected. They're connected. They're spiritually connected. So again, Dun will only get the help from Yosef, and that's why inherently, like, why did the guys from Dun stop off in Ephraim? Why are they stopping off in Ephraim? Of all the different places they could have stopped off, why did they stop off in Ephraim? So you could say, okay, it's on the way. Well, there are other places on the way, right? He got his provisions from Yehuda, because there was a certain connection with Yehuda too, but ultimately it was with Yosef. Now, if the right guy in Yosef would have got together with them, it would have put some more sense into them. But unfortunately, they ran into Micha, who's the wrong guy from Yosef. He's the guy from Yosef, but using the wrong tactics. So it's the negative aspect of Yosef, the negative aspect of Dun. So that's how you end up, Dun stealing the Pesach and creating a community not in Eretz Yisrael, on the border of Eretz Yisrael, but not in Eretz Yisrael. That's how all the negative came out. So now Reb Tzadok then says, so now why is this story mentioned after the story of Shimshon? Yeah. What's the connection to Shimshon? So there is a connection. Shimshon's from the tribe of Dan. So now he continues. The Seder Sipur Zeh Achrei Sipurei Shimshon, and now this story is mentioned after Shimshon. Even though it happened much earlier, the story of the Pesach Micha was, according to most people, hundreds of years before Shimshon. He says, Kemidas Aksuvim Lahaktiv Raful Lamaktiv, because that's the way the style of the author of the prophet is, to precede the healing before the damage. In other words, Ki Shimshon hu haya hayoser gadol shebeit shevet Dan ba'olam hazeh, that Shimshon was the greatest Jew of the tribe of Dan in this world. He was the greatest Danite. Uba hayu tikunim, and through him many corrections happened. Shafal pi shegam hu bacha b'bnos harelim, even though he chose to live with non-Jewish women. V'nira ki ilu yeshu shaychus in reality, it would appear he had a connection with non-Jewish women. But we know the Torah, the Navi says differently. The Torah testifies, it came from Hashem. We didn't come to avenge the Philistine, as we've already learned. He's the snake on the path. And the opposite came, he was meant to subjugate them, to punish these people and to turn things around. Okay. And it's mentioned regarding the story of Micha. It says in all these stories there was no king of Israel. So how does that happen? Turn the page, we're almost done. Because only through the attribute of Malchus do you get the completion. If there's a king, he would make us use our talents in the right way. Since there was no king and there was no Malchus, she had all this great energy that was being used in the wrong way. So how is it possible to have this deficiency in the root of our Yiddishkeit? When there is, as long as there's no king, that's what happens. So that stature of the Jewish people is not built properly, b'shleimus, in its completeness. Therefore the Pesach Micha came. In other words, the king makes sure that your right attributes are used correctly, and those attributes are not misguided in the wrong direction. There's the proper way for Dan. Shimshon used the attributes of Dan as best as any Danite had. He has his attribute of justice, and you make sure to use it against those Plishtim. And you make sure to wipe out as many Plishtim as possible. And even if you have to engage in borderline nefarious activities, but you can use it for amazing things. So he was the best. But all the other rank and file, they just didn't use their attributes properly at all. So therefore, Rak Kol Zman Hayos Beis Elokim B'Shilo, as long as the house of Hashem was in Shiloh. Now we get that connection to the Pesel Micha in Shiloh. Shu B'Shevet Ephraim, that's the Shevet Ephraim, as long as the Mishkan was in Shiloh. Asher Lo Yivka Bo L'Nachla, which means Hashem has not settled on the final completion of the land of Israel with Yerushalayim as our capital. Because as long as we haven't finally picked on Yerushalayim, which represents our true inheritance, meaning to say, we haven't been able to clarify the beauty of what the essential Jew is all about. That Hashem's presence should permanently dwell within us. It never happened. The Mishkan, as good as it was, didn't represent God's permanent, total connection to the land of Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, so it's possible to have a Pesel Micha under those circumstances. Because it's a kicking of the Anochi, which is the root of the essence of what the Jews are all about. So basically what Reb Tzadok is saying, he's tied in all these different ideas. He's tying in the Mishkan and Shiloh. He's tying in there's no king. He's tying in how Jews could be worshipping idols. It's because it's all just missing one little point. When the Beis HaMikdash is there, that's the unquestionable reality. There's a God, and there's a God that's beyond any physical, corporeal, any understandings. And that would eventually happen one day. But at this point in time, Dan, who is not yet totally where they should be, and therefore they don't really have their piece of land yet, they get mixed in with Ephraim, a descendant of Yosef, and therefore things go a little bit off the derech, and with the best of intentions, they still don't have a king to say, you know what, you're totally wrong, and you've got to correct that, and you've got to put it in the right direction. So now just one more little juicy little point. Well, yeah, but see, so it's not just stam idol worship. It's not just stam idol worship. Now in the bold, look now. So when did the destruction of Yerushalayim happen? It happened in the month of Av. Why in the month of Av? Now we know there are 12 months and 12 tribes. Every tribe has a month where their constellation is strong. Whose constellation do you think is strong in the month of Av? Shuneged Don Shemitziro, because the month of Av parallels Don, whose fault is he has a greater tendency to confuse and mistaken the true identity of what Hashem is all about. The Beis HaMikdash represents a total clarity of what Hashem is. Total clarity of Anochi Hashem Elokecha is when you go to the Beis HaMikdash. Don is the Shevet that has the tendency to not have that total clarity, to make God a physical being. So therefore, if the destruction has to happen in such a time, it would be the month of this tribe. That's what has to be an Av. And all the other Jews, since we're all interconnected, so the little bit of negativity of Don can infiltrate into the rest of the Jews. Therefore, of course, it has to be that, and therefore, Misha Nichnas Av, Mimatim B'Simcha. When the month of Av comes, our Simcha is reduced, because our Simcha only comes from our understanding of our closeness to Hashem, which only can really happen when there's a Beis HaMikdash. When you don't have a Beis HaMikdash, and you don't feel the presence of Hashem as much, you can't be as happy. So now, let's turn the page. I'm skipping now, so then we just have to do one more thing, and it fits into what we're a week behind, but it's still good enough. The third line. Now you can understand Misha Nichnas Ador in the bold lines. Why is it Misha Nichnas Ador? When you enter the month of Ador, what do we say? Marbim B'Simcha, you have more joy. And who is the tribe that represents Ador? They got to think, because there's also two Adors. It's the only month there's two Adors. So it has to be Yosef, who has Ephraim and Menashe. So the month of Ador parallels Yosef in his power. So Mishenichlas Ador Shuneged Yosef. When we come to that month, and what is, by the way, the astrological sign, the animal, the sign of Ador?
Fish.
Fish.
Oh, that's
fish, right? So is that in the English Aquarius? Is that, I don't know if that's it. Pisces, whatever. So it's a fish. So where does the fish come onto Yosef? Because what was the blessing that Yaakov gave his children of Ephraim and Asher? He said, Hashem, v'yid gularov, you'll multiply like fish. So that's the logical sign of fish, which is Yosef. So Adar is the month of Yosef.
Is the word for Av too, for them?
No, we don't need double. We don't need double.
No. I mean the sign.
I'm not remembering right now. Right? That's why we have two Adars. Shekain Yosef dim Shnei Shvatim, because from Yosef came two tribes. So in that month, Marbim B'Simcha, we increased the joy. Why? Ki bohu shorish hasimcha b'Hashem, because that really is the root of Simcha and Hashem. Dal Yado, that through Yosef, when it's done properly, hu yichud kutchabrichu, that's the unification of Hashem. V'chibur knesset Yisrael avim sh'Shemayim, and it connects the Jewish people to their Father in heaven. Al Yedei HaTzadik Yisod Olam, which comes from Yosef, who is known as the Tzadik. Yosef's attribute is what? The ninth sphere of Yisod. Yisod is the one that connects the Jewish people to Hashem. Remember, Yisod is the connecting, bonding. So who is the one that has that attribute of bonding? That's Yosef. Right? So Yosef, now, and Yosef, the pure Yosef, what do you know about Yosef? Well, Savol Shumi Schabras in Goya. He had no connection with non-Jews. See, right? He was in Egypt. He wouldn't succumb. He wouldn't succumb to any of the morality. And more than that, he spoke negatively against his brothers when he thought his brothers were involved with Canaanite women. Right? So you see that Yosef is the one who really represents that could happen. So what should have happened, but unfortunately didn't happen, is that the power of Yosef would have influenced the power of Dan in a positive way. And that's what should have happened. And even though there's Danites who are struggling with this, but the problem is you had this Micha who was a corruption of Yosef, and therefore a corrupted Yosef with a corrupted Dan creates a corrupted Pesel Micha. But when the real Yosef comes out, the real Yosef is the one who stays very far away from these negative things, and he's the one who brings us closer to Hashem, right? And therefore, Mishenichnas Ador, or we can feel closer to Hashem, Marbim B'Simcha. And that's why in the month of Ador, what do we do at every Ador? We read Parsha Shkolim. Every Ador, we give the Machatzis HaShekel. Why are the Jews giving the half shekel coin? Because this is the yearly contribution for all the animal offerings for the temple, which connect us to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And more than that, so now that we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, so what do we do when we don't have a Beis HaMikdash? And we can't give the half shekel coin, what do? No, we read the Torah portion that's of Shkolim. We're reading the Torah portion of Shkolim. Why are we reading the Torah portion of Shkolim? To say that Hashem, we wish there was a Beis HaMikdash. And if there was a Beis HaMikdash, we would give the Machatzis HaShekel. And we've learned from Luzzatto many times already that in as much as there is a virtue for being able to do a mitzvah, but there is even a greater virtue when a person is longing to do the mitzvah, even though he cannot do it, because that goes deeper into the person. A lot of times you do the mitzvah so you think you can fulfill it by doing it, but a lot of times your heart isn't in it. But if there's something you're longing to do that you can't do, remember, what's the main thing Hashem wants out of you? He wants what's in your heart. You can give a half shekel coin. Let's say you had a temple and every year you give a half shekel coin. It becomes a robotic experience. You're giving the coin, but you're not giving yourself. And then all of a sudden you realize there's no temple. This is a terrible thing. It says, I wish we had a temple. If we only had the temple. We had the temple. I wish we had the temple. I could give a half shekel coin. I can't give a half shekel coin. You know, the longing, the yearning. Really, there's so much in the person when he longs and yearns for something. And that brings you closer to Hashem. And if you read the parsha, say, I wish this would happen, then that brings you closer to Hashem. Mean to say, that this is really what the intention should be when you read the Torah portion of Shkolim. We're a couple of weeks late on this, we'll have at least for next year. It says, Mishenichlas Ador Marbim B'Simcha. Simcha is what? Based on only one thing. How close do you feel to Hashem? How close do you feel to Hashem? So in Adar, where we begin to read about the half shekel coins, and we say, oh, we wish we wouldn't only be reading it, but we'd be giving it. And Hashem, please, let's have a Beis HaMikdash again. So that's a reason to increase your joy, that you're feeling a connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu now. Which leads you then into the month of Nisan, which is the ultimate redemption, as the Jews were redeemed from Egypt. Right? On the other hand, Av is the tribe of Dan. Tribe of Dan, just didn't put it together. They don't feel that uniqueness of Hashem in the greatest way. They don't feel that ultimate connection to Hashem. So that's the month that the temple will be destroyed. And that's where we decrease those feelings of joy that we would have. So it's a beautiful, beautiful piece from Rav Tzadok that really explains all of these ideas over here. So tomorrow there's just one more little piece that will mamish take 5 minutes. There's one last piece we have to know about this Levite. One more thing about him, and then we will begin the Pilegesh Begiva story.